Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing my very own Mido Ocean Star 200 in blue. Now if you haven't already seen the video where I bought this watch on eBay, I'd recommend watching that one first. I'll have that linked in the description below. So I'm just going to wait a second while you go and watch that one. Okay, now you're back, let's jump into this review. Now, I'm not a massive fan of history, so I'm not going to dwell too heavily on it, because Mido has a whole page on their website going through their extensive history. So I'm just going to say that they were founded in 1918, and the main other point was that in 1959, the Mido Ocean Star was born. And then the last and most recent thing, in 2019, Mido partnered with Red Bull with the Red Bull diving competitions. That's all you have to know really. But if you want to know any more, there's definitely some more information available on their website. I'll have that also linked down below. So now for the product specifications. Now don't recoil when I go into the sizing of this watch, because I know the next few digits that come out of my mouth might sound like a lot, but trust me on this, it does wear a lot better than anticipated. So the size of this watch, the case diameter, 42.5mm. Yeah, that's quite big. I would normally not go for a watch that big, maybe the odd exception, but that is quite a large watch. I normally go 40 and under, but yeah, that's quite a large watch, but I have to say it does not wear that big. Now, I think the main reason for that is the actual lug-to-lug distance of this watch is only 48.5mm, so very compact on wrist. Now, the other thing to mention about this watch that keeps it from looking too big on your wrist is the thickness, coming in at 11.8mm. That's not very thick, and it wears quite close to wrist thanks to that. This Mido is protected by the strongest type of crystal available on the market, a sapphire crystal. It is a flat sapphire crystal with 2 layers of anti-reflective coating. So the coatings are actually applied on the top layer and the bottom layer, so you're going to have no glare in the sunshine. As well as it being a flat sapphire crystal, means you're not going to have any viewing distortion at different angles. The only other 2 specifications to this watch to cover are the lug width and the movement. So the movement on this watch is a Caliber 80, which is Mido's own modified ETA movement. Now it's called the 80 because it has an 80-hour power reserve, an enormous power reserve, and I think one of the best in this budget sort of lineup. You can't really get a power reserve that good under really £1,000, so very impressive to see it in a watch that's only £760. The lug width on this watch is 22mm. 22mm, I know it's a bit big, it's a bit annoying because most people have 20mm straps, but on the plus side, you now have an excuse to go and buy some new straps. So there's that as well. The bright sunburst blue dial is a perfect reflection of the ocean, the way it so effortlessly shifts from a deep dark navy to a light reflective cobalt. And if you peer a little closer, you may see this so slight vertical grain running up the dial. Now it might be a bit romanticised to say, but these do resemble the lines left on the sand as the tide pushes outwards. But that is all something I enjoy after I purchased the watch. But what really drew me to this watch to begin with was the beautiful skeletonized hands. The shape of these hands are very similar to me, resembling the Patek Philippe Nautilus, yet displays a discerning difference. The beautiful skeletonization, I actually think it's superior to the Patek. Patek Philippe is not the only resemblance I've drawn from wearing this watch. This also reminds me of the Ulysse Sardin Blue Shark, without the hefty price tag. Now I know this might upset a few people, but there is no display case back on this watch. Now personally I don't actually mind that, because I don't feel like every watch needs one, and this allows it to be ever so slightly thinner, opposed to having a display case back and maybe coming in at 12mm instead of 11.8. So I'm more than happy just to have a regular case back. But unlike Rolex, Mido have actually bothered to engrave it. They've done a beautifully embossed starfish with a beautiful smooth finish on it. For me, this watch belongs at sea. Now I don't mean looking at the sea from the beach. I mean this watch belongs on the wrist of a sweaty sailor drinking a cold beverage under the beating hot sun. And that's why I've switched out the metal bracelet for the fabric strap, because I just feel like it better re-embodies that nautical theme this watch belongs so heavily to. Now that's not to say there's anything wrong with the bracelet. It's very nice. It has large screw links, a large clasp, and a smooth finish. It's also meant to have a micro adjust. Mine doesn't have that, see my previous video for more details. But the canvas strap just seems to fit the attire the Ocean Star resides within a lot better. This isn't a watch that I would take to a fancy dinner party, and it isn't a watch I'd wear with a suit, but I would wear it on the water's surface. Now, I know this is a diver's watch, and I'm wearing it above water, but I feel like it just belongs there a lot better than it ever would at 200 meters down below the sea level. Now, I just feel like even though this is a fabric strap and it's not exactly waterproof, I feel like it embodies that canvassy, saily feel a lot better than a bracelet ever could. Now for the inevitable downsides to this watch, the cons of this watch. So I've only got 2 today, which is not a lot, so that just says how well this watch is built for the price. Starting off though with the clasp of this watch. Although I really like the bracelet, and I feel like the bracelet is really well made, it's very heavy duty, very thick. I can imagine it on a mechanic's wrist and it'd be worn all day every day for 10 years and still feel like a really solid piece of equipment. I just don't feel like the clasp is quite up to it. I feel like it's too thick and too cumbersome. I feel like with a thinner, lower profile clasp, this watch would have been a lot better off. The other downside to this watch is the bezel. The bezel is made from a really nice rich blue aluminium, but that's the problem, it's aluminium and not ceramic. That makes it very susceptible to scratching, so you're going to see a lot of scratches on this watch after a few years. Now some people like that, it makes it a bit defined, a bit more theirs, but I'm not a massive fan of scratched bezels, so that would be something I'd like to switch out. The other thing with the bezel is the rotational aspect of the bezel isn't great. It's a bit heavy, it's a bit sticky for my liking. It's definitely not the worst I've seen, but I've seen better bezels on cheaper watches. In conclusion, I think this watch is absolutely amazing. It looks beautiful, it's made really well, it's from a very reputable brand, and is part of a huge corporation that is known for quality. I think this is definitely a keeper in my collection, and I'm hoping to see it last for years to come. So if you're in the market for an entry-level luxury dive watch under £1,000, I don't think you can go wrong with this watch. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope to see you in more videos soon. If you're not subscribed already, why not? It's free. But until this video, goodbye.